Good evening. We find ourselves picking up where we left off. Also, I'm not entirely recovered from Wednesday, because I had like a really nasty migraine, but I'm doing a lot better. Faring well in your adventures below? Well, I had an adventure of my own while you were gone. I don't usually visit the town's graveyard, but I thought I'd go and visit the grave of an old friend. As I was walking amongst the tombstones, I noticed a strange kind of chanting coming from somewhere nearby. Extremely sinister chanting. I looked around to find the source, and I saw two bright, horrible, huge eyes staring at me from the door of a dark cave. I pretended that I hadn't heard the voice or seen the eyes and scurried back to town. My friend will have to wait a little longer for her visit. A new land, different from the last. How many more will we see? The roads between are dark and long, but the Master's light will always guide us. Shadow and fire will dance together so prettily, I think. Did you call us? You called us and we came. You don't look scared. Why did you call us? It doesn't matter. Don't tell me. We came and I can smell something. Something deep below us. I want it. I've already crossed. You carry a lot of smells on you, but you don't have one of your own. Funny little thing. I've already crossed. I like how he's using another bug as an accordion. When flame burns bright inside one's mind, can heed the call across lands and time. Strange stuttering? It shouldn't be, but... let's see. Actually, I've been hearing something along those lines. Apparently a bunch of Twitch's American servers are not available. That might be the problem. Though I'm Canadian, so who knows? I'm not running anything that I shouldn't be. And my stats are fine. Huh, you called us? Speak to Master. I like his design, actually. So, it was you who called us. Well met, my friend. Well met. I am Grim, master of this truth. The lantern has been lit and your summons heeded. A fine stage you chose. You choose this kingdom fallowed by worm and root, perfect earth upon which our ritual shall take place. And you, my friend, your own part is far from over. As the lantern flared, your role was cast, our compact written in scarlet fire. Eager we are to see you commence, but first some illumination is required. Grim child. Across these lands my kin now spread, harvesting that essence peculiar to my breed, the flame and dream. Seek my kin, claim their flame, and return it to me. Together marvels shall be achieved. But don't fret, small one. For this task you won't travel alone. My child shall guide you to the flame, and gather within itself that burning essence. Like you, the child plays key role in this task. Only with it by your side will the flame and my kin reveal themselves to you. And then he exploded. Warned by those who take part in the Grim Troops ritual, the bearer must seek the Grimkin and collect their flames. Uncollected flames will appear on the bearer's map.
Baba Gondala.
The flame, seek it out. Or master for our kin.
Baba Gondala.
I've already crossed.
Well, alright then. The typical relearning of how to play the game. Now, if memory serves... Wasn't there something in Yzma's Grove? No, I think that was a shadow barrier. It looks like maybe the tram in the ancient basin might go somewhere. Still haven't figured out that thing in the, on like the right-hand side of the elevator on the city. There's a cutoff there. There's a dreamer there, but it looks like there's a bunch of ways to it technically. Though I think I need the shadow cloak for that. I think this tram looks interesting. It's like, if it can take me somewhere I haven't been, and it's like the far side of a shadow gate. That was how I set a warp point, not how I go to one. It's been a few days. Then again, if memory serves, the map is a bit non-Euclidean, so like, maybe it's not useful. Still can't access that. Maybe I need to kill the rest of the dreamers first. Here, you can have all of my money again. It does amuse me that there's just a thing that takes all of your money and doesn't even say thank you. No map for this area. Hello. I see a thing there. Interesting. The hive? Not gonna lie, bees aren't my favorite creatures. Coming from where? I do like the background aesthetics here quite a lot. It's almost sort of, stained glassy. And that's why I'm scared of these. I don't want to get stabbed. I was just thinking that I could go for revenge. You would think that at some point the Hollow Knight would just start carrying blank paper. Like, I don't need the map nerd's permission to write things down. I can hit that thing with the Dream Needle. Or nail, rather. Ardent Tribe, light familiar. It is quite bright here. The bees simply grow more rotund over time. It's terrifying. Is there no limit to their power? This one looks a bit cracked. I think I mentioned, but like not terribly long ago, I was out on like a grocery run, and it was windy, and a bee actually like got buffeted by the wind and like landed on its back near my feet. Like it wasn't strong enough to fight the wind, so it just got like knocked around and just kind of like landed. This reminds me of that other place that I was at not terribly long ago. Probably because it is that place I was at not terribly long ago. Okay, so wait, this is the place that Eastwest Grove leads to. Oh. Speaking of map nerd, Kingdom's Edge. Ghouls. These guys seem relatively sedate. Isn't this a cozy hole? I've been venturing about that wilderness beside here and thought a moment's break was well called for. The landscape's all rather serene this side of the city, though the inhabitants are as ferocious as ever. Coliseum of Fools. City of Tears, Royal Waterways. Okay, and then the whole hive's down there. Yeah, lose. Okay, whatever's down here is probably important because it's on the map. And it's also convenient because like I can start down here and work my way up. Another one of those things. I thought that this might be a rest area, so I stuck my nose in there. But upon closer inspection, there's a bench all the way over here, so... That thing was certainly powerful. Kill. Hunt. Okay, first things first, what's here? Brother Mato, in your lonely home at the top of the world, do you still think of me as an enemy? In the future, if you will listen, I will tell you why I chose to tread this path.
To sta jugando.
How did you find me down here where the world ends? Yes, I know why you're here. You came to learn a nail art from the legendary nail master Oro. It is the law of the great nail sage that I must pass down my teachings to those who are worthy. But no law forbids me from exacting a payment for my time. If you truly wish to train under me, prove it with Gio. I cannot afford to.
Que cual ne toca.
Those who do not share their strength will never learn. My master used to say that. Substitute Gio for strength and you will have my own views on the matter. Begone. I didn't need your power anyway. I'm a fox. I'm already as powerful as they come. Stronger, brothers. Oh, there we go. Hi. I was like, if there's a spell thing nearby, I probably need to use a spell. I think I hear a grub. This isn't a randomizer? No, it's not, sorry. Did I leave the randomizer tag on? I did actually do a randomizer on stream on Tuesday. But no, this is, a vanilla blind first playthrough of Hollow Knight. Oh, and a randomizer spawns a ton of them? Gotcha. Those things are really strong. And by strong, I mostly mean, like, tanky. I don't really have a way of stopping them from doing as they please. Another one of these weird things. Another rancid egg. I call it shenanigans. Well, RIP all my Geo. Oh well, I'll get more. I see that the enemies in this area have all taken marksmanship training. I'm just straight up getting my butt kicked over and over. I don't appreciate this team up. Okay, actually, do any of my charms suck? Hold on. No, they're all pretty good. I think I just have to get better. It's also a little bit intimidating, but not really that big of a deal. To be missing a third of a soul thing. Even that I've got a bunch of extra capacity these days. By a bunch, I mean like 2. There we go. Come here, you. Or me. Not entirely sure how that works either way. It's certainly me-shaped, but like... I can keep taking actions without it, so... I don't know. Give me a bunch of soul, please, kind sir. right, a shortcut back up there. Presumably there's some kind of path into or out of the hive off to the left. Quick slash. Born from imperfect, discarded nails that have fused together, the nails still long to be wielded. Allows the bearer to slash much more rapidly with their nail. That's potentially very good. I wonder how much faster that really is, though, because that could be a crazy DPS increase. It's not that crazy. One of those turns that's mostly worth it in a dedicated synergy build. I've never heard of synergy, therefore it does not exist. Okay, so off to the right was another one of those shadow things. Wanderer's Journal. I hear a grub, I believe. I haven't actually talked to that one, like, old-looking grub in a while, so perhaps he's got something new for me. It looks like a thing that I can fall down from, question mark. Oh, another Wanderer's Journal. Hello there? That's certainly a thing. More lifeblood. Wonderful. I like more health. I wonder if there's any implication to the fact that these things are, like, so far apart from one another. And not incredibly useful. Like, for how infrequently you get them and how quickly you chew through them. Hi there. Oh, tiny thing, you climb high. Seek then knowledge of these lands? This ashen place is grave of worm, once told it came to die. But what is death for that ancient being? More transformation, methinks. This failed kingdom is product of the being spawned from that event. Is it you bothering about my tale? Rest is somewhat disturbed, but I find that sensation not unpleasant. Or. This falling ash is molt, the worm's corpse decaying, endless, serene, sad. With its like gone, the world is smaller. Don't mistake, I am not a worm. Too small I am. Too many limbs, no foresight like those old things. For quiet retreat did I climb up here, away from spitting creatures. Yes, high up, away from simple minds lost to light. Theirs is a different kind of unity, rejection of the worm's attempt at order. I resist the light's allure. Union it may offer, but also a mind bereft of thought. To instinct alone a bug is reduced. Be on your way then? It's rest I'll return to, though in these times sleep oft proves uneasy. One prefers its mind to not be pride. It's rather unsettling, rather invasive. I have forgotten where I was going. I suppose it makes sense to... Sam says don't flinch. I suppose it makes sense to check out the rest of the hive later. Okay, lots of corpses literally raining from very rude. Lots of corpses literally raining from the sky. I'm in danger. Seems the Colosseum of Fools produces a fair number of corpses. I was a champion. I won't die here. Okay, so that's the other side of the thing from the elevator. Oh no. Those things can actually kill me when I'm at 2 health. Another warrior finds their way to our fair Colosseum. Ours is the final destination for all seeking trials of intense and deadly combat. All one has to do is place their mark upon their trial board of choice, and lo, the arena's gate will open. There's a small fee attached to each trial, but I'm sure as skilled a combatant of yourself will have accrued a wealth of geo. Now, before you draw your nail and rush eagerly to battle, I'll offer one quick word of advice. There's a warrior's pit just below here where others like yourself await their own trials. I'd strongly advise using it to rest up before placing your mark. Oh, and have no doubt, I'm a fearsome warrior myself. Don't go judging me by my size or my current, constraint. The Colosseum beckons us both. I'll be back in battle soon. Make a contribution and you can enter the trial of the warrior. You won't make a contribution? Nobody ever won glory by clinging to their geo. Lord Fool, give me another chance. I'll prove my strength to you. Well, that room is certainly ominous. What do you want, Kerr? Have you come to laugh at me as well? Fools, did you never consider that being trapped in this cage was precisely what I intended? Yes, by all means, release me into your arena. I am Zoth the Mighty, and as soon as I draw my nail, life ender, your laughter will turn to terror. Leave me be, you lowly worm. I must rest before my great battle. Pray we do not meet in the arena. How miserable to be stuck here instead of continuing my quest. I came to this kingdom to fulfill a promise, and that is what I will do. looks like there's more to the right down there that I didn't notice before. Hail one, you found it too then, this perfect place. I'll soon be entering the battle, just taking a moment to rest first. Though if you could truly challenge me, I'm hoping this arena presents the sort of brutal challenge that I'm after. The perfect challenge. I can already taste my victory. Why does it disturb me? Okay, so presumably after a fight I drop down there. Into the Trial of the Warrior? Sure. Very well then. A new trial is open to you. I hope your performance is spectacular. Fight for Geo and a charm notch. Place a mark and begin the trial? Absolutely for a charm notch. That's very worth it. I simply must win. Coliseum of Fools. Wait, who's the fool in this scenario? Presumably all those who oppose me. I presume that those two were just scared at me. Well then. You don't remember the Coliseum having no music? It has music, it's like this very subdued drum beat in the background. perish. Okay, this is starting to drag on just a little. Like, this is one of those things where I appreciate knowing, like, how far in I was. That was 2 of an early boss. Okay, this feels final. What you got for me? Soap the Mighty. Come on, Chimera, scurry away lest I humiliate you further. Yeah, no, that was worth it. And a charm notch. Oh, that's cute. They put a copy of my mask on it. Also, that is actually a fair sum of Geo. Alright, we're gonna call a 5-minute break there. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. return. And while I certainly could just hang out there and do arena stuff all day, I kinda wanna check out that bit off to the right. I should also consider actually finding a use for that charm notch the next time I'm sitting on a bench. Kinda forgot that that was a thing. Oh, what are these things? Let's see. I just spent all that time climbing down. I don't want to go back up. Oh, bench. Hello? We were just talking about you. Wanderer's Journal. This ash trapped. Okay, it's a little creature. I think I'll worry about that later. I like how it just flickers out of existence there. It's like, oh, you don't want me? Fine. Oh shoot, it's Silksong, get back here. I've been looking for you. So, you'd pursue the deeper truth. It isn't one that the weak could bear. Prove yourself ready to face it. I'll not hold back. My needle is lethal, and I feel no sadness in a weakling's demise. Show me that you can accept this kingdom's past and claim responsibility for its future. Silksong should get her own game. Maybe a DLC extension for this one. Nah, it'd never sell. Alright, PV. Alright. Now that I know a boss fight is coming, I can change up things just a little bit. And by just a little bit, I mostly mean quick focus. Though it is entirely possible that I get lost without the compass. After all, there's no real way to tell where you are on the map without it. I wonder what Shaw means. Like, is it just a ki, or does it, like, mean something? Is it strong enough? So strong. You could do it if you had the will. But could you raise your nail once knowing its tragic inception? And knowing yourself? Then do it, Ghost of Hallownest. Head onward, burn that mark upon your shell and claim yourself as king. Off shell. The king's brand. Hallownest shall recognize a new ruler. The kingdom's gates will open. I should go. Silksong saved me. Clearly she did that to try and stay my wrath. And honestly it works because I've kind of forgotten why I was trying to kill her in the first place. So, like, all's well that ends well, in my opinion. Okay, so I rule the world now. That means that I can, like, raise taxes. was it? There was that parish. I think there was a thing down in the palace. What is this place? I think there was like a thing in the palace that was like only the king may enter or something like that. Wait. There was just a tunnel. I came down here like 5 times. And there was just a tunnel there the whole time? Huh. Anyway. Like, I distinctly remember, like, testing that wall. Oh well. It's like, hey, old stag, I'm the king now. You have to give me rides for free. And the stag's like, but I already... Just looks at me. Yes, your majesty. It's like, you know what? Not gonna argue the point. Corpse in white armor. Okay, still can't do that one. Our pure vessel has ascended. Beyond lies only the refuse and regret of its creation. We shall enter that place no longer. I could have sworn that there was like a sign there that said king only. Did I hallucinate it or something? Probably. Oh. You know that things are funky when the walls have teeth. Like, that's honestly one of the easiest ways to make something creepy is just, like, put teeth where they shouldn't be. Applies both to architecture and to characters. The Abyss. You know, I feel like I actually had this discussion, like, a while ago. Our voices will cry out again. Where, like, I thought that the ancient basin was called the Abyss, and I was like, oh, like every game with, like, weird dark themes has to have an area called the Abyss. That thing was not friend-shaped. Oh, geez. A little bit spooky, not gonna lie. These things look an awful lot like what comes out of me when I die. Which is presumably a coincidence. No connection? That's what I assumed, yeah. Those things also don't give me soul when I hit them. Turn it off? Cannot. My king, I'm sorry. The sea calls. Okay, so the light made the weird tentacle monsters go away. Who would win? A bunch of eldritch horrors or a bunch of fireflies? The answer may surprise you. But there's a shiny there. I want it. Another one of those Shadowgate things. This feels very directly Metroid inspired. Absorbed the Shade Cloak. Press R2 to dash forward cloaked in shadow. Use the cloak to dash through enemies and their attacks without taking damage. You know, I've been wanting to do that. Arcane Egg. I am content. I've been wanting to do this for a while. An imprint of the abyss given form. Alrighty then. What happened? I took a bath. And soon to the Abyss Shriek. Well, alright then. Yeah, when you were like, oh, it's not intuitive what to do, I was like, oh, so I can do it. And then it's like the dialogue was like, oh, you know, our voices, and it's like, okay, and I've got a spell that screams. And more to the point, that's like the only thing I had that's got anything to do with like a voice, so... Okay, so the Shadow Cloak thing is exciting and all, but like... I don't remember where the Shadow Gates were. Oh, hey, Silk Song, what's up? It faced the void and ascends unscathed. Could it unite such vast darkness?
La venu venido.
Ghost, I see you've faced the plate of your birth, and now drape yourself in the substance of its shadow. Though our strength is born of similar source, that part of you, that crucial emptiness, I do not share. Funny then that such darkness gives me hope. Within it, I see the chance of change. A difficult journey you would face, but a choice it can create. Prolong our world's stasis or face the heart of its infection.
Hakana sagamos.
I'd urge you to take that harder path, but what end may come, the decision rests with you.
Hakana sagamos.
Okay. Is there anything... I should check the, I should check the thing again, just in case. Presumably I need to kill the Dreamers to get into this thing. Oh, Teresia, Adam, welcome. I'm doing fairly well. A little bit under the weather, but like... on the mend. I recall there being like a shadowy gate here that annoyed me. Is this my main game? No, this is actually my first time ever playing this. Well, it's my first playthrough. I've played it like 8 times before. Like 8 sessions, 1 playthrough. I don't really have a main game per se. I'm a variety streamer. Like most recently on Wednesday, I played Mario Odyssey. RIP that thing. Traitor Lord. I wonder what makes it a traitor. Then again, I am the king, canonically, so... presumably the fact that this thing is defying me is what makes it a traitor. Which area am I in? I am in the Queen's Gardens. Not gonna lie, you've kind of been giving me bot vibes. Oh, I'm dead. Right. Let's see here. It would probably help if I started incorporating, like, dashes into fighting. Because now they give iframes. Can't create 100... Yeah, I can't create it 11 days ago. Oh, it's 100% of I. I'm just being polite. I haven't got anything better to say right now. It was really funny the other day when I got one that popped in on me when I was doing a Link to the Past randomizer, and then asked me which game it was. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's not reasonably possible to find a Link to the Past randomizer stream without knowing what Link to the Past is. Okay, dashing through this thing is absolutely the way. also like how there's been absolutely no follow-up since they said the word bye. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and ban them now. It's like disgusting clanker. If you won't let me farm content off you, you're useless to me. Oh, sorry, you gotta be timed out. Well, you're not a clanker, but... have fun in timeout for 10 minutes. I actually heard an interesting argument not terribly long ago, which was that we shouldn't be calling chatbots like clanker. Not because we should be respecting them, because we shouldn't be, but because even like playfully using something with the cadence of a racial slur evokes sympathy for them. And we don't want to be evoking sympathy for them. But on the other hand, it is very fun to say clanker. I am white. I will take any opportunity I can to say slurs. That's not actually true. Well, that's a new one. I presume that the only way through that shockwave attack is the Shadow Cloak. It's also very aggressive to the point where I feel like realistically just not getting hit is the play. Because I'm really not getting many opportunities to heal myself. Alright, Trader Lord once more. I don't quite understand why sometimes I get through it and other times I don't. Never mind, I think I just figured it out. My dash regenerates. a moment before those shadowy particles go back into me after a shadow dash, and if I dash before those go back into me, it's not a shadow dash. Ow, my bones. I do wish that this boss run back was a bit less long. Like, it's not so long that I can, like, reasonably complain about it, but, like... I'd rather just, like, immediately get back into it. Though I suppose that the best solution to that problem is to just get good so I don't get set back in the first place. You know, speaking of bots, one of the alternate personas that I considered back when I was like starting YouTubing was like a sapient AI. And like, imagine how difficult it would be to get taken seriously with a name that had AI in it today. That guy hits really hard. Thinking, like, would any of these be better? I recall this thing not being incredible. But who knows, maybe it'll work this time. I'm at the point where I'm willing to try new things. That said, I think this thing has hit me for like 4 masks once or twice. I feel like that falls under the excessive damage that this thing does not protect me from. I suppose we shall find out. attempt felt really good, but it also had nothing to do with this thing. Let's see. That said, I feel like I'm learning this guy's tells fairly well. I'll probably be alright. Can't guarantee I'll kill him this try, but this will almost certainly not be a wall that I find myself unable to overcome and consequently quit the game over. If I were gonna crash out over something like that, it would be in a game that I enjoyed a lot less than this one. I just realized those like sickle things are the same things that the Mantis Lords used. He just throws two at once. And rather than having like fixed angles, I feel like they go straight for my face. Though maybe I'm just standing in dumb areas. would say at this point in time that ranged attack is what's getting me more often than not. Like, it might not be exactly what's killing me, but like, it is what is maintaining the pressure on me in a way that I can't really handle at present. And I am just absolutely not nailing the platforming. My goodness. I feel like maybe I'm getting a little bit tired. I think I'll give it one more try tonight, and then I'll call it there. Like, this feels very doable, I just feel like I'm not doing very well. And I'm inclined to think that it's probably because I'm getting tired. So it's not quite a lost skin situation where it's like I'm staying up until it's dead. You know, I would complain about him getting a hit on me as he spawned in, but I got a hit on him as he spawned in, so it would be hypocritical to complain. That said, his hits count for way more than mine, so perhaps I shall complain. Well, RIP me. I think we're going to call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is on Sunday. The game is Super Paper Mario. The next time I'm playing Hollow Knight in particular is going to be on Monday. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful night, and I hope to see you again. Good night.